What's good, people? In this video, I want to talk about the judges and the judging criteria. Now, this is a topic I wanted to talk about, but I was like, what do I really talk about this? There's already like thousands of videos explaining the judging criteria, the scoring criteria, how fights are scored, but I don't think we talk about it enough because still so many people get it wrong, still so many judges get it wrong, which is exactly why I'm making this video. Because if you watched Almakhan versus Matsumoto, you'd know what I'm talking about. Last weekend, we watched Almakhan versus Matsumoto, a horrible robbery. Somehow Matsumoto won that. I thought Almakhan clearly won round 1 and 3. Clearly. People are saying it's kind of close, even the ones that agree that Begzat won. I don't think it was pretty close. I think it was pretty clear that Begzat won. But I think judges just don't know how to score fights or anything. So first, let me just go over the judging criteria. Also, let me talk about this for a minute. One judge, I don't know who, let me look it up who it was. Clemens Werner scored the first round for Matsumoto. The round Matsumoto got dropped in. The round Matsumoto got knocked down in, that's the round you score for Matsumoto. See, that's why I'm kind of, the judges, something needs to be done about the judges. Because if the fight is close and, it's kind of like, it's not that bad if the fight is like a Volkov versus Gan or something, right? Which I do not think that fight was a robbery, and I'll explain that later on in this video as well. But like, the fight is close, you kind of understand. But how do you score a round for somebody who just got knocked down, who landed some good shots on the feet, but other than that did nothing? Yeah, I know he took down Almakhan, but he did nothing with the takedown. He did nothing with the takedown, absolutely nothing with the takedown. So how did we score that round for Matsumoto? For what fight are we fighting? What fight are we watching? Sorry. Like what I generally don't understand how you could score that round for Matsumoto. Generally don't understand how that could even happen. There's no fucking way a judge can look at that and score that round for Matsumoto. If you are scoring that round for Matsumoto, you should be fired. You are potentially ruining another fighter's career. Regardless of if you don't know the judging criteria, if you've never read the judging criteria, regardless of that. How can you score a fight for a round for a fighter who got dropped in it and did nothing else pretty much in that round? And both of these guys exchanged some pretty good shots. But Almakhan obviously was the one who dropped Matsumoto, and Matsumoto took him down but did nothing with it. And takedowns don't score, and I'll tell you why. We'll get to that in a minute as well. So how does one judge look at that? Regardless of a judge. Let's talk about you. You, the viewer, you look at that first round. I want you to go back, rewatch that first round, and pretty much, you know what, you can also just look at the stats of that first round and you can kind of see what I'm saying. I want you to go back, rewatch that first round of that fight, and tell me how does one score that round for Matsumoto? Regardless of if you know the judging criteria or not. How does one possibly score it for Matsumoto? Even if you have not read the judging criteria, even if I bought a person who's never watched an MMA fight before, somebody who doesn't know anything about the MMA scoring criteria, they would tell you Begzat won that round. Pretty clearly. How does one score that round for Matsumoto? Clemens Werner somehow scored it for Matsumoto, and Clemens Werner, whichever fight you score next, I'll be keeping my eye open. This was also the guy who scored Mofsar versus Lerone Murphy a draw, which he scored Mofsar winning, but then because of the point deduction it was a draw, which is fair, which is not bad. I'm not criticizing it, but I did think Mofsar could have won round 1. Could have won round 1 too. But you know what, regardless of that, let's talk about the judging criteria. I've discussed enough as to why there is a need to make this video. But let's talk about the judging criteria. And it's not that hard, okay? Fine. The judging criteria is literally 1 page long. It's literally 3 PDF pages, dude. 3.5 PDF pages. You can just Google MMA scoring criteria and this is what shows up and you can literally read it. It's not that hard to find it. There's also a clarified version as well. And I don't really like the clarified version, to be honest, because it does cause a bit of more, instead of clarifying, it causes even more confusion. We'll get to that too in a minute. But first, let's just talk about the basic scoring criteria and how it works. Let's just start by reading the first line. To evolve mixed martial arts, blah, 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 it must be stated that the criteria is used in specific order. Okay. To evolve mixed martial arts, judging criteria to focus on the result of the action versus action itself, in bracket, must be stated that criteria is to be used in specific order. So here we understand that the criteria has an order that it should be used in. First you look at this, then you look at this, then you look at that. That's the order things go in. It clearly is stated there. These criteria may not move from one to the next without the prior criteria being 100% even in the judge's assessment. So if the first criteria is not 100% equal for both of these guys, you can't move on to the next criteria. Is that clear enough? Is that clear? Effective striking / grappling shall be considered the first priority of round assessments. So effective grappling and striking is the first priority. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Effective aggressiveness is plan B. So I used to think, I read the judging criteria like way before, so I kind of forgot. I thought effective aggressiveness is scored after control time, which is not true. It's effective striking and grappling, then aggressiveness should be considered, and as is a plan B, and should not be considered until the judge does not see any advantage in the striking / grappling realm, in the effective grappling / striking realm, whatever, you get the point. And then we have plan C, the third and final option. Cage / ring control time should only be needed when all other criteria are 100% even for both competitors. This will be an extremely rare occurrence. But here's the thing. Judges often score fights on control time. How else do you score Gene Matsumoto versus Bexar Almakhan for Gene Matsumoto? You can't. There's no way in hell you can score that fight for Gene Matsumoto unless you scored control time before effective striking / grappling, which is exactly what the judging criteria tells you not to do. And we'll get to that why that third round was not even close in a minute. Then we have prioritized criteria. Effective striking / grappling. What is effective striking / grappling, right? Legal blows that have immediate or cumulative impact with the potential to contribute towards the end of the match, with the immediate weighing more heavily than the cumulative impact. Now here's another key point that most people don't really point out that much. Legal blows. So if, let's say, you and me are in a fight, the only two things that happen in the round are I land a back of the head shot, I land like a back of the head shot to you, and you get wobbled, and you land a good jab on me, and it doesn't do as much damage as I did. Those are the only two things that happen in the round. You should win that round because I did not land a legal blow. You landed a legal blow, and that's the only thing that should be scored. But I don't think we often take this into account as much as we need to, because a lot of these rounds could go the other way. For example, Charles versus Chandler to round 5. That could have went to Oliveira because because a lot of these shots were illegal. So do you score these or do you not? But obviously they got scored and Oliveira lost that round. Well, Oliveira probably would have lost that round regardless, but if we don't consider those back of the head shots, the round would have been much closer. And then we have the cumulative impact. There's the part about contributing to the end of the fight. It's whatever, it doesn't really matter. Any strike really contributes to the end of the fight. That is why a punch to the head is valued more than a leg kick, because it contributes more towards ending the fight than a leg kick. Pretty easy to understand. Cumulative being immediate being more valued heavily, weighing in more heavier than cumulative. Pretty simple as well. You land 10 punches on me, I knock you down. Pretty sure I'm the one winning that round. Obviously, there's things to consider. but it's pretty self-explanatory. But cumulative impact can win rounds. Now let's get to effective grappling. Successful execution of takedowns, submission attempts, reversals, and the achievement of advantageous positions that produce immediate or cumulative impact with the potential to contribute to the end of the match, with the immediate weighing more heavily than the cumulative impact. So let's go through this. There's an interesting part here about achievement of advantageous positions. So if I take your back, that scores. But if you are laying in my guard, that does not. That is not an advantageous position. That is an equal position. That is an equal position. And so is half guard. And the line below that is a very important line. Very, very important line. And that's something a lot of fighters miss. And that's something a lot of judges should hear every single fucking day when they wake up. Every single day a judge wakes up, I need somebody to call them and tell this line to them. It shall be noted that it shall be noted that a successful takedown is not merely a change of position, but the establishment of an attack from the use of the takedown. Basically, what that means is takedowns do not score. If you take your opponent down, you land ground and pound, or you try to pass guard, or you do something offensive with it, you score. But if you don't do anything with it, if you are Jailton Almeida, you don't. And that is what brings me to Volkov versus Gane 2. Now obviously round 1 was clearly Gane, round 2 was clearly Volkov. It's round 3 that is controversial, and a lot of people think Volkov should have won that round. But Volkov did nothing in that round. The only two things that happened was Volkov took Gane down and controlled him. He didn't establish an attack. He didn't do anything. The only person to establish an attack was Cyril Gane, who was attacking in submission from the bottom. So I don't think that fight was a robbery. Yes, the round was definitely very close. If a judge scores it for Volkov or Gane, I wouldn't really be mad at it, because the round was really close. Because nothing really happened in that third round. But Gane should win that round because Volkov wasn't able to establish anything offensive, while Gane was able to at least attack a Kimura that got the attention of Volkov. And we'll get to the submissions part. Top and bottom position fighters are assessed more on the impactful/effectful result of their actions more so than their positions. Pretty much Volkov versus Almeida 2. Top and bottom positions are not. Bottom is not a disadvantageous position, and top position is not an advantageous position. Now obviously if you get into full mount, if you get to side control, that's a different thing. But we are talking about laying in somebody's guard. And Jailton Almeida did nothing from top position, and so did Volkov. Volkov also did not do anything from top position against Cyril Gane. So the claim that is a robbery might not actually be true. I know I'm being like kind of a contrarian and a devil's advocate, because everybody thinks Volkov won that fight. Even I thought Volkov won that fight. Going into that fight, when I rewatched it, I was like, this is going to be such a horrible robbery. And I was like, okay, round 1, round 2, it's 19-19 going into round 3. And I'm like, dude, the judging criteria states that positions do not matter and control time isn't scored until afterwards. So maybe there's an argument that you could argue Cyril Gane's submission attempt from bottom wasn't that deep and he wasn't able to establish much, and that's why it went to aggressiveness and control time. But even then, Cyril Gane was the more aggressive fighter. So unless it shouldn't even go to control time first, it should go to aggressiveness first. Because Cyril Gane was trying to attack submissions from bottom, while Volkov was pretty much just defending whatever the Kimura attempt that Gane had in round 3 and trying to control Gane on bottom. So Gane was the more aggressive one. So even if it does go to the second criteria, Gane is still winning. Even if you somehow think the first criteria is equal. Unless it goes to the third criteria, Volkov doesn't win. So you have to make a really good case for Volkov to win. So I don't think that fight was a robbery. I've changed my mind completely. And I'll make a video on that too soon. Next part of the judging criteria is the criterion will be the deciding factor in in a high majority of decisions when scoring a round. The next two criteria must be treated as backup and used only when effective striking slash grappling is 100% equal for the round. This is also something the judges need to hear. Now, a lot of times judges give in to the control time and all that stuff. It doesn't matter. Control time is the third criterion. Doesn't matter. And takedowns don't score alone. So if an opponent takes you down and controls you, that does not matter. Control time does not matter. Now, what is effective aggressiveness? Aggressively making attempts to finish the fight. The key term is effective. Chasing after an opponent with no effective result or impact should not render in the judge's assessment. Once again, you could make an argument that what being on top and trying to do something is aggressive, which it's really not. You can't say Jelton Almeida was showing aggressiveness, you know, because it's not leading to anywhere. Effective aggressiveness is only to be assessed if effective striking slash grappling is the blah 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 blah. You get the point. Fight area control, you get the point. It should. Now let's get to the clarified version a little bit. The clarified version was released in 2019, if I'm not wrong. Fighter effectiveness concepts. Damage. Now let's get to the damage part. Michael Bisping on commentary loves to say he didn't cause any damage. At first I used to criticize Michael Bisping, and I will still criticize Michael Bisping because he is using the right term. Because if you read what damage means, it is still true. But he's using damage wrongly. When Michael Bisping says damage, he does not take effective grappling into account at all. So his assertion is right. What he's saying is correct. But the reason behind it is completely wrong. If you read the damage, defined as legal fighting techniques, the result of which lessen an opponent's capacity and or will to compete. This includes knockdowns, forcing the opponent to the canvas as a result of a legal determinantal strike, heavy and or conclusive legal strikes to the vital targets. Third, legal strikes that force the opponent to retreat, readjust, or default to defensive exclusively or to defense exclusively. Fourth, striking or grappling that lead to visual injuries, swelling, hematomas, lacerations, bruising. Grappling or submission attempts that hyperextend joints or cause rotational damage. Chokes that cause visual distress. Now obviously, this is why it causes more confusion, because what do you mean visual distress? You can't really, it's like the judging criteria is not really defined, because the judging criteria says effective is more heavily weighted than cumulative, but by how much? Listen guys, I filmed my fucking audio, I recorded my fucking audio, it cut out midway through. I don't know why it cut out midway through, so I'm gonna say what I said halfway through the video, like the second half of the video, what I said, I'm going to say that again, because my mic just fucking cut out after some time. I don't know why that fucking happened. So pretty much this is where it kind of causes a bit more confusion, because how do you say that, how can you quantify how much does immediate effective striking slash grappling outweigh cumulative one? You can't really quantify that. That's why it causes confusion. How can you kind of tell visible distress? You can't really quantify visible distress. That's why it becomes kind of a problem. Now I think the main issue here at hand is when a lot of people bring up that judges don't know how to score fights, they usually say that they don't understand the judging criteria, they don't understand what effective striking, effective grappling is, they don't understand which criteria to follow first or whatever. I don't think that's the main issue at hand. The main problem is judges don't know which fighter did more damage. They don't really understand who did more damage. You look at a fight like Almakhan versus Matsumoto, which was the reason I kind of made this video. Almakhan did more damage in rounds 1 and 2. But obviously the judges fucking didn't see it. They are following the judging criteria. They are using the criterion in proper order. They understand what effective striking and grappling is. But they don't know which fighter did more. That is the main issue. Which sometimes the fights aren't even close. Like Almakhan versus Matsumoto should not have been close. It was not close. There was no way in hell Matsumoto, a judge should have scored that fight for Matsumoto. What's the point of clarifying this much? And I know the obvious solution to that is clarifying the judging criteria even more. That still won't fix the problem that judges don't know what did more damage. Because if you want to clarify the judging criteria, you have to, because how much do you clarify the judging criteria? Clarifying is not the solution, because you can clarify it to like so many times. Like it will get to a point where you're breaking down fucking jujitsu techniques that, oh, this technique hyperextends the arm this much with this force, and you're breaking down how much force this fighter applied here and there and their technique and whatnot. It doesn't solve that problem. You can clarify it all you want. The clarification will never stop. So that's not really a proper solution to this problem. Now, in my opinion, the solution to this problem is having more judges that actually compete or train in martial arts or MMA. I would say MMA, because judges need to know how to score MMA. I would say we need more judges that actually train MMA to score fights, because how do you quantify which fighter took more damage when they're exchanging punches? Obviously, most of the time it's easy to tell, but sometimes the judges do fuck it up even in easy fights, because they just fucking don't know who took more damage. They understand what damage is, but sometimes in fights you can't if two guys are exchanging punches, there's no part in the judging criteria that helps you that much to kind of tell them apart as to who won or not. And judges kind of, they can fuck it up quite a bit. Like I took the example of Clemens Werner. Clemens Werner scored the first round horribly wrong, which I think he should be fired for that. I don't think he should judge a fight ever again. But also he scored Evloev versus Murphy pretty good, which was a controversial fight, which I thought was gonna go to Murphy and Omar was gonna get robbed. But he scored that fight perfectly. Maybe you could give round 1 to Evloev, but this is what I'm saying. Unless judges start training, unless you have judges that actually train and understand the sport, and they won't really understand how damage works. The judging criteria is fucking useless if they can't tell apart which fighter took, if they can't tell the fighters apart, if they can't tell which fighter took more damage. Clarifying won't solve the problem, because you can clarify it as much as you fucking want. The clarification will never stop. How much will you clarify the judging criteria? You can clarify the judging criteria till it has 1,000,000 pages. You can break down fucking striking techniques, and you can break down, oh, this punch, this power and whatever. You can break it down as much as you want. Until they can actually get hit in the face, unless they actually get choked out, unless they actually understand what's really going on in the cage, how are they supposed to know who's taking more damage? And that's my solution to it. And I think there are two main problems. Obviously, the first one is the judges don't know which fighter took more damage. The second is obviously the judges don't really follow the judging criteria. They don't really understand what effective grappling or striking is. They don't understand the order. They fucking break the order of the judging criterion or whatever. I would say those are the main two problems. If you guys think there's any other problems, if you guys think there's any other reasons for judges fucking up fights, scoring fights that much, if you think there's another reason judges fuck up scoring fights that much, if you think there's any other solutions to these problems, drop them in the comments. I would love to hear your opinions. And yeah, I think you guys understand the problem at hand. I think I made my point pretty clear, and this video will drop today. This is like a side note with another video. This was supposed to drop the day before, but because I broke my big toe, I am going to be dropping another video. It's a tier list about undefeated fighters who are going, where I rank them as to whether I think they're going to be undefeated by the end of this year or not. Yeah, so that video will drop too. So if you're watching this, make sure to go check that out as well. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And I'll see you guys in the next one.